I'm Mike Bossert. I'm currently the chairman of the Kankakee County Board. The county courthouse here in our county has been a source of pride for our community for many years. Over 100 years ago, the citizens of this county voted overwhelmingly to construct a new courthouse when the old one was outgrown. In 1909, construction was underway, and there was a grand celebration that day when they laid the cornerstone. The picture is on our wall here. Legend has it 20,000 people showed up that day to celebrate that event. The county courthouse has been a source of pride to our community for all these years and is a symbol of the county and is a symbol of our county government and has been the center of our county government for all these years. The courthouse conditions have been a source of discussion at the county board level. Those discussions reached a level of urgency 2 years ago when a directive came from the Attorney General here in Illinois to address a number of handicap accessibility issues in our building. At that time, all the other issues surrounding that building came to a head. The age of the building, the lack of space, the non-compliance with Supreme Court standards are all issues that the county has to address in this building. Not addressing these issues is not an option. We must deal with the deficiencies in this building, or we may well face a directive by the U.S. Attorney to address those issues one way or another. That's why we're taking a little tour today with the help of Bob Bowman, local architect here in town, who over the years has helped the county with design issues in our building.
Hello, my name is Bob Bowman. I'm a practicing architect here in Kankakee and have been for almost 40 years now. I've been asked by the county, the board, the Blue Ribbon Commission, and also the design committee, as it were, to give them some assistance and background as they're taking a look at our Kankakee County Courthouse, circa 1909, a very traditional, beautiful structure, but they have some challenges that have been placed in front of them. The biggest challenge and a catalyst to what the county is being approached with now is the letter from the Attorney General's office, state of Illinois. Unfortunately, there's 159, if not more, items that are non-conforming with the American with Disabilities Act. Often you'll hear the acronym ADA, or the Illinois Accessibilities Act, which is IAC. The county has been challenged to come up with many corrections, and what we're going to do as we walk through the facility is take a look at what are some of the challenges, how the county can approach them, and some that actually cannot be solved. Another challenge in front of the county is that with the Illinois Supreme Court. This is a 1909 facility, it's 100 years old, and what was working and met code or Supreme Court standards 100 years ago do not meet the standards now. So many of our courtrooms need to be addressed, any remodeling. And for instance, if we have 9 courtrooms and 10 judges, right there alone we need additional space. Speaking of space, taking a look at how the county has grown over the years, the additional judicial services that are being offered, we have a building that is about 45,000 square feet of usable space, but the recent programming on a space needs, after talking to all the department heads, the planning group has come up with about 145,000 square foot need. So there you can see the shortcomings. Many challenges presented also then lead up to what we take for granted nowadays, just as the video you're watching, internet, computers, AV equipment in courtrooms, so many different systems that didn't even exist 100 years ago need to be accommodated for in this facility. So we have 100-year-old plumbing, 100-year-old wiring. I will say that the air conditioning and heating is not 100 years old. It has been worked on, has been improved, but that was almost 35, 40 years ago already. So we're going to go through the courthouse now and take a look at the facility. It is a very gorgeous building, very historic building, and we wish to preserve that. It is on the National Register, but also we need to be functional and we need to be taking care of the services to the citizens of Kankakee County. As we take a look at the facility, you'll see the rotunda, the ornateness of it, the paintings, the frescoes. It is quite gorgeous. But at the same time, a close look will give you the items that we have some damage from rainwater, storm damage. So there are things that need to be taken care of, systems that need to be let's say, rebuilt, improved, or repaired. But taking a look at the functionality of the facility, what we have, and in trying to meet Supreme Court standards, besides just trying to have a client working with their lawyer, right in the rotundas, these are the meeting tables where a lawyer will sit with their client, talking about some very personal or family issues with everybody wandering right around them. Also, the waiting in a rotunda such as this, along the walls in front of the courtrooms. You're right out into public. It can be a very emotional environment. And the Supreme Court and the standards also do tell us there should be private meeting rooms for lawyer-client relationships. We don't have those. We don't have the room. As we go up onto the 3rd floor and then work our way down through the courthouse, we'll be going up the elevator. As we go up the elevator, a couple of things we have to take a look at. We can talk about how this elevator is used not only by the general public, and I think needs some work on the safety, but this elevator is used by judges, jurors, families, defendants, and many people who really should not be in the same space at the same time. The elevator is also used by the Sheriff's Department for the transportation of prisoners. So now as we go up to the 3rd floor, just think about how you would handle the logistics within a building such as this. I mentioned earlier about the ADA. This elevator does have a proper sized entry door of 3 feet. Unfortunately, the elevator is 4 inches short of being a proper size for ADA. Okay, we're now coming out onto the 3rd floor of the courthouse. Some of the things we talk about, again, historic quality of the building, but when we talk about the needs of the facility, safety issues. We take a look at safety. There's basically the one main stairs in and out of the building. So if we had any type of fire or smoke, there's a challenge of how do people get out in such an emergency. Safety issues such as we do have the beautiful railing around the rotunda here. However, it creates a very large open space. We'll take a look at the courtrooms themselves. There were only 2 original courtrooms within the facility, Court 300 and Court 200. We're now in Courtroom 300, which is one of the original courtrooms of the facility. There were only 2. Now we have 9. As you can see, it is a very classic design, but as we take a look at what is called the litigation well, you can see that quite a bit of technology has been added due to new equipment, audio video systems, and the running of the wiring, the running of the equipment. It's become congested. We don't meet the current Illinois Supreme Court code. And to give you a for instance, we talk about security, and one of the big issues in a courthouse is separation of traffic. We keep the public separated from judicial, which would be the judges, separated from prisoners. Those are 3 primary or main traffic patterns. In our courthouse, we do not segregate them at all. The elevator we just came up is used by the public, defendant, prisoners. If I happen to be a juror, I'm sitting here, public. I can naturally touch them, they can touch me as we're coming in and out. We could have the plaintiff's family, the defendant's family, witnesses, again, coming out in within a few feet of a juror. So that is not a good item. The other thing is I happen to be sitting in the 2nd level of the juror's box. The 1st level is raised a foot. How does that meet accessibility? Somebody with a cane, walker, much less in a wheelchair. So this jury box does not meet accessible code requirements. A curiosity, if I happen to be a juror, or if I happen to be an alternate and I'm sitting down at the far end of the juror's box, I'm actually sitting behind the witness. I can't see the witness's face. Hopefully I can hear the witness. I do not see expressions. But if I'm a juror, I am behind the witness. The other thing is, if I am a witness giving testimony, much less the plaintiff or the defendant, I'm practically within touching distance of the jury. Again, it's something that is not comfortable, something that is really not appropriate. and I am practically sitting even with, if not behind, the judge. Again, the judge needs to see all that is going on in the courtroom at any time. The judge needs to see the jury, the witness, the clerk, the lawyers, much less the public. Part of the standards are that the litigation area is to be 32 feet by 36 feet. We've got the 32-foot width. We do not have the 36 feet in depth. These are the two existing rooms, 200 below us. The historic character of the facility, though, is that these rooms could and would be retained because of their character and possibly used in a judicial environment. But the courthouse needs new courtrooms that properly function. We take a look at the public seating area. Part of what is done here is in the public seating, we have plenty of space, but you'll notice it is not accessible. Now, the county, to gain some of those solutions, could very easily shorten some of what I would almost call a pew here. And we could just have them cut back, and a nice simple solution to making it accessible for the public. We're now in courtroom 309, which was remodeled many years ago, and there were good intents of making it accessible, functional, but again, we're in a building, though, that has the perimeter limitations of walls and columns, and also when we talk about accessibility, part of the construction of this bench, we have the relationship now of the witness to the judge, to the clerk, to the jury. So our relationships are better, our lawyer locations and our litigation, well as it's called, is better. There was even allowance made for a handicap lift to go behind the bench to take care of witness and or judge or clerk should we need it. However, we do have the two-level jury box, which would need to be addressed relative to either a ramp or taking out the first riser within the jury box. So a courtroom such as this is closer to the Supreme Court standards, but yet it does not fully meet the standards. As we take a look at the back of the courtroom, the public area, the seating area, a judge is to have full view of the full area of the courtroom, not just a litigation well. You can see we have existing building columns. The judge cannot see what's going on in the public area, much less can the public get full view of the judicial. Part of a courtroom, especially a jury courtroom compared to a bench courtroom, is the jury deliberation room. As we go back into the jury deliberation room here on courtroom 309, think of 12 to 14 people in this space. Now, this is not a bad space. It could be and should be a little larger. At least it has windows, heating, and air conditioning. It does have a restroom, but according to Supreme Court standards, we cannot have shared restrooms. We are to have a men's and women's restroom. So the space available, the county approached the problem as well as it could given the restraints, but this does not comply fully with Supreme Court standards. So as we leave the third floor, even minor items such as the existing water fountain, it does not comply with the ADA or the Illinois Accessibility Code. It needs to be bi-level, it needs to be wheelchair, walker accessible. And as we take the stairs down to the second floor, a grand staircase, marble, granite, and the plastering. However, the handrails, you'll notice there's no handrail at my right side, and the handrail or main baluster at the left. If I started to trip, I challenge anyone to try and grasp the handrail over here with your hand. So as far as safety goes, great architectural, gorgeous stairs, non-code compliant or safe. Okay, we are entering room 208, Circuit Clerk Suite on the second floor. As we enter the room, we're going to take a look at space usage, space needs. Also, as we enter the room and go through the doors are very small. Both doors have to be open for accessibility. We come into the room and we can see the counters along the middle here, the various staff, and we'll walk into the room. Now for us, these counters are a great height. I call them elbow height. I can easily write, sign a check, fill out forms or paper. But if I'm elderly, walker, or a wheelchair, these are not acceptable. They are not handicap height, as we would say. We've now entered the circuit clerk's area, and as you will be able to see when we pan the room, we've got 12 people working in a space that's really sized for 4 to 6. So just think of yourself trying to work in this area. Or as I walk towards the back, think of accessibility. If I were in a walker or wheelchair, could I get through this 32-inch space? You know, it should be at least 36-inch, if not 42. And we take a look, even though we are in the electronic age, and the county is taking a lot of their files and documents and making them electronic. We still need storage for day-to-day operations, current files, and the various file systems and having the people work on them. We're now in the circuit clerk's main suite, main work area, and we have, again, high density population, as it were. 12 people working within this room, which also serves the public. So it's a bit of a challenge, and just think of the heating and air conditioning loads, but also think of the electrical loads. Computers, equipment, copiers that we have in a building that is 100 years old. We take a look at the public service area. We have the counter. It is at a nice height for regular working. However, we at least are able to entertain handicap facilities that we do have a counter at the standard 30-34 inch around the corner, so that somebody in a wheelchair can come in and use the facility, though it being quite tight corners. We're now entering an area that used to be a file workroom, staff lounge actually for employees, but due to space constraints and space needs, you can see how files have been brought into this area so that we can get some high density filing. We have an additional judge, actually part of a workroom. A corner was taken and remodeled for judges' chambers. Well, I would not call this chambers. This is a judge's office where we were able to find enough real estate to create an office space for the additional judge. We're now in courtroom 205, a corner courtroom on the second floor. Very dense, very tight space, but when you need to have a certain number of courtrooms, you do the best you can. I'm sitting in the judge's bench at the moment. Just to my right is the witness stand, very tight area, non-accessible. We have our clerk and reporter's positions on each side of me here on the bench. But as we take a look at this space meeting Supreme Court standards, you can see that our litigation well, we have our lawyers, our defendant, and our plaintiff sitting right next together at two tables in an L shape, not the traditional linear shape facing the bench. And as we look at the public seating area in the back of the courtroom, you'll notice a very large column right in the middle of the courtroom. This restricts the judge's viewing of the public, much less any public sitting there, their viewing of the court proceedings, or the witness. We're now in the judge's chambers on the third floor off of courtroom 300. Something that's rather unique to the Kankakee County Courthouse and does not meet Supreme Court standards is, as I mentioned earlier, our traffic flow. Public, judicial versus prisoner. For instance, if I were the judge coming into my chambers, I would enter through the suite door. But that door is also used, though, for prisoners. Because we do not have prisoner holding on the third floor, as the prisoners are brought in by the Sheriff's Department staff, prisoners are actually seated right in the chairs along the entrance here. The judge, who would be coming in a little later, would walk through the suite and actually be walking back to his or her office in the facility right past an individual who the judge and a jury could be trying in a very short amount of time. So you can take a look at the overcrowding, you can take a look at the challenges that our judicial system has in this existing facility. Okay, we are now down on the first floor and we're in courtrooms 104 and 104A and B. These were remodeled some 25 years ago, actually taking a large room and trying to make two small courtrooms out of it. And these are for civil cases. There is no jury box, there is no jury trial that occurs in here. So we have our typical judge's bench, witness stand, clerk, reporter. However, part of the problem with a court facility such as this is that we actually have our plaintiff and our defendant sitting at the same table with a small divider between them. Now, this really shouldn't be. Just imagine yourself sitting on one side of the table, and if it's a divorce case, your ex or potential ex sitting on the other side. The courtrooms, both of these, are also used in juvenile cases. So now I've got a young child, a boy, a girl, sitting in this type of environment and going through a lot of emotional stress, physical stress, and the closeness of it, and how we are sitting then with the accused and the accuser right next to each other. So these are just some of the challenges within a facility where we have tried to use it to the greatest extent possible. We're now down in the basement of the courthouse. We're on the west side. We are in what is called the jury commission, jury assembly area. And as you can see by the seating in this room, the county attempts to get over 100 potential jurors in this space, as they have to then sit here and wait to be selected to be on a trial. Quite crowded, high density. There's not much you can do. It's limited to what availability you have to even equipment, much less bringing anything with you. So it's quite an experience to be on jury duty here in Kankakee County. We're now down in the basement. We're in the core or center area of the basement, and you can even see how office suites have been tried to create down here, a waiting room coming into the reception area, but yet we have smaller offices that work off of this reception area and actually into a hallway that go back down further under the basement. So the facility is used to the greatest extent possible for literally too many people within the building. Well, there you have a brief tour of the Kankakee County Courthouse facility, its needs, its challenges, how the county has used it to the greatest extent it can, but to try and take us to the future, what changes, what improvements, what mandates, and what codes and laws have to be abided by. So we hope that this information has helped, has given you some insights into what we have at the Kankakee County Courthouse. Should you like to see more, please visit it, contact your county board representative, or call the county, and we were happy to try and inform you and give you the information you asked for.
Thank you for your time for looking at our courthouse building and looking at some of the issues involved. You're welcome to visit our county website to get some more detailed information on the courthouse. www.kankakeecountyonline.com is a link to our county webpage. On there you will find a link to courthouse information. Feel free to contact me or any county board member for any information that you would like to gather. And again, thank you for your time.